The first thing Elias heard was laughter. It echoed across the training arena, sharp and bright, bouncing off steel walls and alien glass. Elias stood alone at the center circle, boots planted on scorched metal, his pulse hammering so loudly he thought the others could hear it. Sweat slid down his spine beneath the borrowed combat suit. It didn't fit right. Nothing here ever did. "Earth has no warriors," one of them said again, louder this time. More laughter followed. Elias swallowed and tightened his grip on the practice blade. It was heavier than it looked, forged for hands with extra joints and thicker bones. His palms burned. His arms shook. He told himself not to look at the observation ring, but he did anyway. Rows of alien cadets leaned forward, antennae twitching, tails flicking, luminous eyes narrowed with amusement. They were beautiful in a dangerous way, sharp lines, polished armor, easy confidence. Predators raised on war. He was just a human cadet, a late admission, a political experiment. Elias had been standing there for 30 seconds already. No opponent, no instructions. That was the first insult. The second came from above. "Cadet Elias Ward," announced Commander Vierks, her voice amplified and cold. "Species, human, origin, Earth, recorded combat history, minimal." Minimal, that word pressed down on his chest harder than gravity. Vierks continued, "Your peers have raised a question. We will allow you to answer it." The arena lights shifted. A gate slid open on the far side with a grinding scream of metal. Something stepped out. Elias' breath caught. It wasn't a training drone. It was a Korathi duelist, taller than him by half a meter, armored in black and crimson, 4 eyes glowing like coals. Its practice weapon was real enough to break bones, maybe kill. A murmur rippled through the stands. "That's not regulation," someone whispered. Elias heard it anyway. His heart kicked hard. Fear surged, raw and electric. His mind screamed at him to run, to protest, to explain that there had been a mistake. Humans weren't supposed to face Korathi alone, not cadets, not untested ones. But another memory cut through the panic. Rain on concrete, sirens, his little sister's hand slipping from his grip as soldiers dragged him back. Earth burning quietly, city by city, while the galaxy debated whether humans were worth saving. Elias lifted the blade. The Korathi tilted its head, amused. "You may yield," it said in broken standard. "It will end faster." Laughter again, softer this time, curious. Elias exhaled slowly. His hand stopped shaking. "No," he said. The word felt small, but it was his. The signal sounded. The Korathi moved like a storm. Fast, precise. Its first strike shattered the air where Elias' head had been a moment before. He barely rolled aside, metal screaming as the blade scraped the floor. Pain flared in his shoulder as he slammed down. The crowd gasped. Elias didn't hear them. He was counting breaths. 1, 2, just like the old drills, just like his father taught him before Earth had fallen and warriors had become refugees. He surged to his feet, blade up, feet light. The Korathi hesitated. That was new. Elias didn't attack, he waited. The alien lunged again. Elias stepped inside the strike, too close, ignoring the instinct to retreat. He took a glancing blow to the ribs, white-hot pain, but he twisted, hooked his foot behind the Korathi's leg, and drove his shoulder forward. They hit the ground together. Silence slammed into the arena. Elias' vision blurred. He tasted blood, but he was on top. The Korathi froze, stunned, blade pinned awkwardly between them. No one had taught Elias that move here. He'd learned it in a ruined parking garage, sparring with scavengers for ration credits. "Impossible," someone whispered. Elias pushed himself up and backed away, chest heaving. He didn't raise his weapon again. He just stood there, bleeding, unbowed. In the observation ring, one cadet wasn't laughing. Her name was Lyra. Elias didn't know that yet, but her silver eyes were locked on him, wide and searching. She had come expecting entertainment. What she saw instead unsettled her. Commander Vierks leaned forward slowly. Interesting, she said. The Korathi rose, stiff and furious, but did not attack again. Elias met its gaze, fear still there, but something else layered beneath it. Resolve, anger, grief sharpened into purpose. Earth had no warriors. That was what they believed. Elias wiped blood from his mouth and straightened his spine. This, he thought, is where I prove them wrong. And somewhere deep in the Academy's silent systems, 100 unseen eyes began to pay attention. Elias collapsed in the med bay an hour later. Not dramatically, not with honor. His legs simply stopped obeying him. Cold white light washed over his face as the world tilted sideways. Voices overlapped, alien tones, clipped commands, unfamiliar medical jargon. Something sharp hissed near his neck. Pain dulled, then returned in waves, distant and heavy. He stared at the ceiling and tried to breathe. Don't pass out, he told himself. Don't give them that. You should not be conscious, a voice said calmly. Elias turned his head. A woman stood beside the bed, tall and elegant, her uniform dark blue with silver trim. Commander Vyerks. Up close, her eyes were sharper than any blade. I've been worse, Elias muttered. That earned him a pause. Have you? She asked. Yes, ma'am. She studied him for a long moment. Then she gestured and the medics quietly withdrew. You were not trained in academy doctrine, Vyerks said. Your movements were inefficient, emotional, reckless. Elias swallowed. His ribs screamed when he tried to shift. But, she continued, you adapted, you closed distance, you accepted damage to create opportunity. Her gaze bored into him. Why? Elias didn't answer right away. Images flickered behind his eyes. His father's broken hands, his sister's empty room, Earth's sky red with fire and falling debris. Because backing away never saved anyone, he said finally. Xylan stretched. Vyerks straightened. Rest, you will be evaluated again tomorrow. She turned to leave, then stopped at the doorway. The Korathi demanded your removal, she added. They claim dishonor. Elias forced a weak smile. Sounds like their problem. For the first time, Commander Vyerks's mouth twitched. News traveled faster than painkillers. By the time Elias limped into the lower mess hall the next cycle, conversations stopped mid-sentence. Trays paused in the air. Eyes followed him. He hated that feeling, being watched, measured. He kept his head down and grabbed the nearest empty seat. Is it true? Someone whispered nearby. He didn't yield. No fear response, another murmured. Did you see the impact tolerance? He shouldn't even be here. Elias clenched his jaw. Then a tray slid onto the table across from him. Mind if I sit? He looked up. She was the one from the observation ring. Silver eyes, pale skin marked with faint luminescent lines along her temples. Her hair, if that was the word, fell in smooth, dark waves down her back. She wore cadet armor, but hers bore a crest Elias didn't recognize. He said intelligently, sure. She sat studying him openly, not rudely, carefully. I'm Lyra, she said, House Valen. That meant nothing to him, but judging by the sudden silence around them, it should have. I'm Elias, he replied, just Elias. Her lips curved slightly, I know. That made his stomach tighten. You fought like someone with nothing to lose, Lyra said softly. That frightened them. Elias snorted, I was terrified. Yes, she agreed, but you moved anyway. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Our species are taught to master fear, to erase it. Her eyes flicked to his chest, where fresh bandages showed beneath his uniform. Humans, she continued, seem to carry fear with them and still advance. Elias didn't know what to say to that. Around them, whispers grew louder. A few cadets stared openly now. Others looked away, uncomfortable. Lyra noticed. Her posture shifted, subtle but protective. Why are you here, Elias of Earth? She asked. The question hit harder than the blade had. Because if we don't learn how to stand with the galaxy, he said, We'll disappear quietly, and I won't let that happen." Lyra's expression softened. Something like sadness crossed her face. "You will be tested again," she said. "Harder next time." "I figured." She hesitated, then smiled, small, genuine. "I hope you survive." Before he could answer, an alarm chimed through the hall. All screens flared to life. "Cadet assembly, immediate." Lyra stood swiftly. "Come, whatever you did yesterday changed something." As they walked, Elias felt it too. A tension in the air, a shift. They weren't laughing anymore. High above in sealed chambers Elias would never see, ancient observers replayed the footage again and again, nodding his reactions, his pain tolerance, his refusal to yield. One of them asked a question the galaxy had not considered in centuries. "What happens," the voice murmured, "when a species that survived extinction decides to fight back?" Elias stepped into the assembly hall, unaware that the answer was already beginning. And this time he would not be alone. The assembly hall was vast, bigger than any stadium Elias had ever seen on Earth. Alien architecture curved impossibly upward, walls shimmering with energy that pulsed in rhythm with his racing heartbeat. Hundreds of cadets filled the space, a kaleidoscope of species, shapes, and sizes, all of them armed, all of them trained, and all of them watching him. Elias felt the weight of every gaze press against him. A human shouldn't even be here. Not alone, not untested, not against them. Commander Vyerk stepped onto the central platform, her voice amplified without effort. "Cadets, today's test is not a simulation. This is the combat evaluation gauntlet. You will face 3 opponents sequentially. Any failure will result in disqualification." The word disqualification wasn't threatening. It was final, it was erasure. Elias swallowed. His ribs still burned from yesterday. His arms ached. He had barely slept. And yet somehow a spark had ignited within him, a flame that refused to die. "Cadet Ward," Vyerk said, her gaze piercing him, "your first opponent is a dual-class berserker, non-lethal but capable of inflicting serious injury. Begin." The floor beneath him shifted. From hidden panels, a massive alien rose, a towering figure wrapped in pulsating armor, claws gleaming like knives. Its eyes were deep black pits, unblinking. Elias recognized the movement pattern immediately, aggressive, relentless, designed to crush before analyzing. He stepped forward, blade in hand, forcing himself to inhale slowly. Focus, just survive, adapt. The berserker lunged. Pain was immediate. Claws slashed past his shoulder, tearing through padding and leaving fire on his skin. He twisted, rolled, swung, and missed. Every muscle screamed. Every joint threatened mutiny. A flash of memory hit him, his sister trapped under rubble, screaming. He had lifted the beam alone, bleeding, exhausted, fueled only by refusal to give up. That memory became fuel now. Elias ducked under another strike, grabbed the berserker's wrist and shoved, spinning himself free. He was unpolished, unpredictable, not efficient, but he moved with heart. A cheer erupted from a few cadets. Most stared, shocked. How is he still standing? Before the berserker could strike again, a second opponent dropped. A Cerithian archer, agile and lethal. Twin energy blades replaced the bow, slicing arcs of blue across the floor. Elias cursed under his breath. 2 enemies, 1 human body. Logic screamed retreat, but his body remembered yesterday, remembered never yielding. He feinted, pivoted, and let instinct guide him. Pain blurred the edges of consciousness. Sweat and blood mixed. His vision narrowed, but something else sharpened. The strange thrill of impossible odds, the taste of defiance in the air. A movement from the corner caught his eye. Lyra, she wasn't just observing anymore. Her silver eyes tracked him, every blink a silent encouragement, every slight nod a pulse of trust. "Don't fail," she whispered, almost inaudible. That was all he needed. The berserker roared, swinging wildly. Elias rolled under the arm, caught the momentum, and used it to flip over the alien's back, landing in a crouch. The archer advanced, striking downward. Elias blocked, countered, and twisted the attacker off balance. A shove sent the Cerithian sprawling into the wall. Silence, the audience froze. The energy in the hall shifted. Aliens who had mocked him yesterday now whispered, "Human moves differently." But the final opponent stepped forward, the most terrifying of all. A Korathi blade master, lithe and deadly, eyes gleaming red. Elias froze for a fraction of a second. Fear surged. This was the strike that would end him. Every instinct screamed to run, to drop, to surrender. And then he felt it again, Lyra's gaze, the memory of Earth, the certainty that if he didn't fight, no one would. He gritted his teeth, raised his blade, and whispered to himself, "Not today." The Korathi lunged. Elias met the strike, dodged a second, twisted into a roll, and something impossible slipped between a blur of strikes and landed a kick that staggered the alien. The hall erupted in stunned murmurs. Commanders paused. Observers leaned forward. Elias, bleeding and gasping, raised his chest and didn't lower his blade. He had survived the impossible. Lyra's smile broke across her face, brief and radiant. "You are incredible," she whispered. Elias didn't answer. He only felt it, the first tremor of a truth that would shake the galaxy. Earth has warriors. But as the applause started, Vyerx's voice cut through the noise. "This is only the beginning, Cadet Ward. The real test is yet to come." Elias froze. Somehow he had survived, but somehow he knew survival alone would not be enough. And in the shadows, the Korathi blade master's eyes narrowed. They weren't done with him yet. The gauntlet was just warming up. Elias barely slept that night. His body ached in ways he didn't know humans could ache, yet his mind refused rest. Every replay of the day's battle looped endlessly in his head. The roars of the berserker, the flash of the Cerithian's blades, the Korathi's final strike. Lyra found him before dawn. She moved quietly, her armor whispering over the floor as she slid into the small training room Elias had claimed. "You're going to kill yourself if you keep thinking like that," she said softly. Her silver eyes caught the dim light, gleaming like stars in a black sky. "I don't have a choice," Elias muttered, stretching his stiff limbs. "If I slow down, if I hesitate, if I forget how to fight, I'm done. Earth is done." Lyra shook her head. "No, you're here because you already survived that. You adapted. You proved more than most of us could in decades of training. You hide it differently." Elias looked at her blankly. "Hide what?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice, and for the first time, Elias noticed the faint scars along her forearms, silver lines almost like veins glowing beneath her skin. "Power," she said. "Humans, they're unpredictable because they carry something we try to control or suppress. You carry history, survival, and stubbornness, all of it, and you don't even know it." Elias blinked. "You're saying my mess-ups, my fear, it's actually strength." Lyra smiled faintly. "Exactly. The galaxy doesn't understand it yet, but some of us are starting to notice." Before he could respond, an alarm cut through the silence, urgent and mechanical. Red lights bathed the room. "Another test," Elias groaned, rolling onto his feet despite the pain. Lyra nodded, eyes sharp. "Not a test this time. Trouble, outer perimeter, unknown ships approaching fast. Command wants every cadet ready." They ran to the deck together. As they emerged into the observation corridor, Elias felt his stomach tighten. The hangar doors opened automatically, revealing a flotilla of ships unlike any he'd seen, sleek, jagged, pulsating with alien energy. The Academy's defensive ships scrambled to intercept, and the display panels showed hundreds of incoming combat drones. "They're scouting," Lyra said, "and they'll attack if they think we're weak. That includes you." Elias' pulse spiked. Yesterday he had fought alone. Today he would fight with the galaxy watching and with real stakes. "Stay close," she said, placing a hand on his arm. The touch was light, but it grounded him, anchored him in a way the chaos couldn't. They joined the cadets on the training deck, now transformed into a command hub. Every species moved instinctively, weapons raised, shields primed. Elias scanned the room. Aliens who had mocked him yesterday now looked at him differently. Some avoided eye contact, wary, others whispered, nodding subtly, acknowledgement. The first wave of drones struck like lightning. Metallic screeches filled the air. Explosions rocked the outer hull. Cadets scrambled, forming defensive lines. Elia's, heart-hammering, realized the difference between training and survival. Here, hesitation meant instant death. Lyra covered his side, deflecting energy blasts with uncanny precision. "You ready?" she shouted over the chaos. Elias swallowed blood from his lip, nodded. "I have to be." They moved as a pair, fighting through swarms of drones. Elias' movements were rough but effective. His instincts, his untrained unpredictability, confused the drones' targeting algorithms. Lyra noticed and adapted alongside him, syncing with him in ways neither fully understood. At one point, a drone shot past his shoulder. Without thinking, Elias flipped, grabbed its energy core midair, and hurled it into another drone, detonating both. Cadets paused mid-attack, staring. Humans do that. Lyra's eyes widened. "Elias, you just survive," he said, breathless. The waves continued, relentless. Each victory was temporary, each misstep could end them. Yet in the midst of chaos, Elias began to feel something strange, not fear, not panic, but exhilaration. A rhythm, a sense of purpose. A connection not just to Lyra, but to the line of cadets around him. After what felt like hours, the final drone fell. Silence returned, broken only by alarms and crackling energy. Cadets were bruised, scorched, some limping, some pale from shock. Elias staggered, leaning against a bulkhead. Lyra slid next to him, matching his uneven breathing. "You," she whispered, eyes searching his. "You changed the tide. You're more than we imagined." Elias let himself smile, weak but genuine. "I'm just human." Lyra shook her head. "No, you're Elias of Earth, and humans were finally starting to understand what that means." And somewhere deep in the Academy's central command, Vierks watched the replay. Her expression unreadable, she whispered. "The humans, they hide something even we can't anticipate. This cadet is going to change everything." But Elias didn't know that yet. He only knew he had survived, and that surviving had brought him closer to someone who understood, not just his fight, but him. Outside the Academy, stars burned cold and distant. But inside, for the first time in centuries, one human felt a spark of hope. And the galaxy had just begun to notice. The Academy buzzed with whispers. Hallways that had once ignored him now seemed to curve around his presence. Every glance felt loaded, every nod calculated. Elias tried to ignore it, but even the walls seemed aware of what he had done. Training resumed that morning, but the atmosphere had shifted. Cadets who had mocked him now lingered nearby, watching his every movement, while others avoided him as if proximity carried contagion. Every corner hid a potential challenge, every shadow a test. Lyra found him again, leaning against a railing overlooking the training floor. Her silver eyes glimmered in the morning light. "They're talking," she said softly. "Some admire you, some resent. It's inevitable." Elias frowned, rubbing his bruised ribs. "I don't care what they think. I need to survive the next round." Her expression softened. "You're not just surviving, Elias, you're forcing them to see the truth, that humans aren't fragile, that we can't predict you. That's dangerous for them." Dangerous? Elias let the word hang in his mind. Dangerous didn't scare him. It exhilarated him. Their conversation was cut short when an alarm blared, sharper than any before. Red lights bathed the corridors. The Academy's central screen flickered to life, showing a live transmission from the council chamber above. "Cadets," Vierks's voice rang out, crisp and cold. "Intelligence reports indicate an infiltration within the outer sectors. Rogue mercenaries likely seeking to test your defenses. This is not a simulation. All units are to respond immediately." Elias' pulse quickened. "Another wave," he muttered. Lyra's eyes darkened. "Not just a wave, a trap. They're hunting us and perhaps testing you specifically." He glanced at her, confusion and dread clashing. "Why me?" She hesitated, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Because yesterday the galaxy saw something in you they've never seen in a human, something unpredictable, and unpredictability terrifies some of them." Elias' stomach twisted. Recognition of what he'd become, a symbol, a weapon, a mystery, sank in like ice water. He wasn't just a cadet anymore, he was a target. They reached the outer training courtyard as the first intruder ships pierced the atmosphere. Sleek, black vessels, their hulls etched with alien runes, swooped in silently. Their weapons glimmered with lethal energy. "Formation," Lyra ordered. Cadets spread out, weapons raised. Elias did the same, instinct guiding him. The battle erupted instantly. Energy blasts lit the sky. Explosions rattled the ground. Cadets shouted commands and warnings, but Elias found himself moving differently, intuitive, fluid, reacting not as he had been taught, but as he had survived. A mercenary drone lunged at him, claws sparking with energy. Elias ducked, rolled, and kicked it aside, sending it crashing into another drone. Beside him, Lyra fought with precision and grace, their movements aligning in an unspoken rhythm. Suddenly, one of the enemy pilots broke formation, targeting Elias directly. A sleek, scarred alien ship, moving with precision designed to kill. His heart thumped, fear creeping in at the edges. "Elias," Lyra shouted, covering his flank. "You can't take them all alone." He shook his head. "I don't have to." Instinct, desperation, and something deeper, rage, grief, determination, fueled him. Elias used the terrain, the energy pulses of the courtyard, even the shockwaves from nearby explosions to his advantage. He ducked, weaved, and turned every move from the enemy against them. Cadets paused, stunned. Commanders leaned forward. For a human, the response was incomprehensible, unpredictable, ingenious. One pilot ship faltered, then another, until the remaining mercenaries hesitated, assessing the human who moved like lightning, dodging bullets, energy blasts, and brute force with nothing but raw survival instinct and courage. The courtyard fell silent as the last intruder withdrew, their ships vanishing into the void. Smoke curled around crumpled drones. Cadets surveyed the battlefield, hearts pounding, breaths heavy. Lyra approached Elias, face pale, voice trembling. You did that, alone somehow." Elias staggered, breathing hard. "Not alone," he corrected, his gaze swept over the observing cadets. "We all fought together, but they didn't see it coming. They never do." A hum of understanding spread quietly through the crowd. Whispers turned to murmurs of awe. The impossible had happened again. But before relief could settle, Vierx's voice came over the comm system, measured but ominous. "Cadet Ward," she said, "your ability is undeniable, but capability alone will not ensure survival. The galaxy is larger and its challenges far deadlier than this. Prepare yourself." Elias' chest tightened. He had proven himself, yes, but the shadow of what was coming loomed over him, and deep down he knew this was only the beginning. Lyra reached out, her hand brushing against his arm. "I'll be by your side," she said softly. "If the galaxy wants to challenge us, let it try, together." For the first time, Elias allowed himself to hope, not just for survival, but for something more. Yet in the darkness beyond the Academy's shields, unseen eyes observed, and a quiet voice whispered across the void. "The human is dangerous. Prepare the contingency." The days that followed were a blur of drills, strategy sessions, and intense combat simulations. Cadets who had once whispered behind Elias' back now either avoided him out of respect or watched him with wary fascination. The whispers followed him everywhere, human, the unpredictable, the one who defies expectation. Lyra stayed close, shadowing his every move, teaching him subtle techniques the Academy never covered, sharing secrets she'd learned through centuries of Korathi and Cerithian combat traditions. Her silver eyes studied him constantly, noting how his body adapted, how his instincts compensated for gaps in training. "Your style," she said one evening as they sparred in the courtyard under the twin moons, "is chaotic, but it works. You move like a storm they can't predict. You can't teach that. You either survive or you don't." Elias wiped blood from his lips, smiling despite the ache. "So, I'm a lucky storm." Lyra smirked. "Lucky doesn't win wars, control does, and you are learning to harness it." There was a tension between them, unspoken, charged. Every glance, every brush of hands when adjusting grips, every near collision in combat drills made Elias aware of something more than mutual survival. He felt an unfamiliar pull, something dangerous, something comforting. That night while the Academy slept, Lyra found him alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "You can't keep pushing yourself like this," she said, her voice quiet, almost afraid. Elias shrugged. "I have to earth my family, everyone counting on me. If I slow down, it's over." She stepped closer, her shoulder brushing his. "You're stronger than most, but even warriors need allies, even you." He turned to look at her, really look at her, and for the first time the galaxy fell away. The glowing lines along her temples, the quiet intensity in her gaze, the way she moved even in stillness, everything drew him in. "Lyra," he whispered. Her hand brushed his cheek, soft, warm, human warmth, though she was anything but human. "Elias," she murmured, voice trembling slightly. "Don't get lost in being a weapon. I don't want to lose you." For a moment the universe contracted around them. Stars, war, cadets, enemies, all disappeared. Just the two of them, standing on the edge of something dangerous and beautiful. Before he could respond, the comm system blared. Red lights flashed, another alert. "Cadets, unauthorized ship detected approaching outer rim. This is no drill." Elias' jaw tightened. He had survived simulations. He had survived mercenaries, but this was different. "Looks like we're not done," he muttered. Lyra's hand squeezed his. "Together," she said firmly. "We fight together." The Academy's hangar doors opened automatically. Outside, a massive shadow loomed, a warship enormous, black as void, its hull bristling with weapons. Scouts reported hundreds of smaller vessels swarming around it. Elias felt a cold twist of fear, real, undeniable, but also a surge of determination. He had faced impossible odds before. He had survived. He had adapted. Lyra led the cadets, Elias at her side. Their bond in battle was effortless, their trust unspoken but absolute. They moved as one, anticipating attacks, covering weaknesses, creating openings in ways that startled even veteran cadets. One of the smaller enemy ships broke formation and targeted them directly. Elias calculated in a heartbeat, evasive maneuver, feint, strike. Lyra mirrored him perfectly. Together, they destroyed the drone with a single, coordinated strike. Cadets around them faltered, staring in disbelief. A human, this human, and a Lyra unmatched in skill had just turned the tide of a real battle. After hours of relentless fighting, the enemy retreated, leaving the Academy battered but standing. Exhausted cadets limped back. Smoke curled from scorched fields. Yet among the chaos, Elias and Lyra remained standing, their blades and bodies marked with the signs of victory. Lyra turned to him, silver eyes shining. "You're incredible," she breathed. Elias shook his head, exhausted but alive. "We're incredible together." For the first time, he realized the truth. Surviving alone wasn't enough. The galaxy would test him endlessly. But with allies he could trust, with someone who believed in him, even when the rest of the galaxy doubted, he could change everything. Above them, in the command observation chambers, Vyrex's eyes narrowed. "The humans," she murmured, "are more dangerous than I anticipated, and this cadet may just be the spark that ignites something we cannot control." Elias didn't know it yet, but the storm had only begun. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, had to take notice. The next morning, the Academy felt different. Silence had replaced the usual chatter, the air charged with anticipation. Word of Elias' victories and his survival against impossible odds had spread like wildfire. Aliens who had once mocked him now whispered in awe. Some approached cautiously, others kept their distance. Elias sat alone in the training yard, cleaning his blade. His body ached, every muscle protesting, every bruise throbbing, but his mind was sharp. Lyra approached silently, her presence comforting and steady. "They're talking," she said softly, sliding next to him. "Cadets, instructors, even some council members, you've made an impression." He frowned. "I didn't do it to impress anyone." "No," she agreed, eyes bright. "You did it to survive, and that is what makes you human." Before he could respond, an alarm blared again, echoing through the halls. The Academy's central display flickered to life, showing a large crowd of the most elite cadets and instructors gathered in the central arena. "Cadet Elias Ward," Vyrex's voice rang out, crisp and commanding. Today you will face the final evaluation, the council challenge. You will fight not one, but all three of your previous opponents simultaneously. Success will earn you recognition as a true warrior. Failure will test the limits of your species' reputation. Elias' heart pounded. The stakes were higher than ever. Every scar, every bruise, every ounce of pain from the last days would count or break him. Lyra stepped close, gripping his arm. "You're not alone," she whispered. "Trust yourself, trust what you've learned." He nodded, drawing in a breath. This is it, no running, no hesitation. The arena doors opened. His previous opponents, Berserker, Cerithian, and Korathi, emerged, their expressions hard, confident. The crowd fell silent. Even seasoned cadets watched in tense anticipation. The first attack came like a storm. The Berserker lunged with brutal force. The Cerithian's twin blades whistled through the air, and the Korathi moved with lethal precision, striking from angles Elias couldn't anticipate. Pain and fear hit him immediately. Blows grazed his shoulders and arms, sparks flew from clashing energy blades. For a moment he faltered, and the arena seemed to tilt around him. Then he remembered Earth, the concrete rubble, the city fires, his sister's hand slipping from his grasp. He remembered every loss, every survival instinct honed in impossible circumstances. "I don't yield," he told himself. "Not today." Elias moved with a rhythm no one expected. He dodged, rolled, and countered, using the momentum of each opponent against the others. The Berserker smashed into the Cerithian. The Korathi miscalculated a strike. He exploited every opening, every weakness, every tiny chance. Lyra's voice echoed in his mind, guiding, steadying. Together they had learned to anticipate chaos, to thrive in it. Alone, he would have struggled, but now he was a force that even seasoned warriors could not predict. The arena erupted in gasps. Cadets whispered. Vyerx leaned forward, her sharp eyes scrutinizing every movement. Even the Korathi, stunned and breathing hard, stepped back in grudging respect. Minutes felt like hours. Elias' body screamed in pain, but his spirit blazed brighter than ever. With a final, calculated move, he disarmed the Korathi, toppled the Berserker, and sent the Cerithian sprawling. He stood alone, chest heaving, blade in hand, bloodied but unbowed. The arena erupted, not in mockery, not in doubt, but in awe. Aliens of every kind, even the most hardened cadets, cheered. Vyerx's expression softened just slightly, a rare acknowledgement. Lyra stepped forward, smiling, her hand brushing his. "You did it," she whispered. Elias looked around. The whispers had changed. They were no longer doubting, no longer laughing. The galaxy had seen the truth. Earth had warriors. He, a single human cadet, had proven it. Vyerx's voice cut through the applause, calm but undeniable. "Cadet Elias Ward," she said, "you have shown skill, courage, and an unbreakable spirit. Today, the galaxy has been reminded that humans, though underestimated, possess a warrior heart unmatched by many." Elias' chest swelled, not with pride, but with relief and purpose. He had survived. He had proved himself. And more importantly, he had shown the galaxy the truth about his people. Lyra's hand found his again. "This is just the beginning," she said. Elias nodded, a spark of determination in his eyes. "Then let them watch. Let them all see. Humans don't back down. We survive, we fight, and we rise." Above, the stars shimmered, indifferent yet witnessing. Below, the academy roared with life and awe. And in that moment, one human had changed everything. The galaxy would never forget.